What was the biggest challenge that you as the business owner, not as the advisor faced, but you as the business owner faced during that position?
I was sitting in too many seats.
What do you mean by that? So friends, welcome to the show. We're down in the Florida Keys. I have a special guest with me, Ali Nasser, who we have known each other now for some time. I saw you on stage the first time about 3 years ago, and I can remember your presence on stage was phenomenal. I remember Emily was with me and I said, that guy is going places. As you came off stage, you were just talking about the release of the book, I think just right before then, and you and I met, and I tried to give you a compliment because it was an unbelievable presentation. Your stage presence is powerful. But from there, I think we've become good friends. We had the opportunity to visit with each other in Scottsdale last year, and here we are in the Florida Keys. We have been trying to fish. The weather has not been cooperative, but we did get on the boat today and do a little bit of snorkeling and played, and we spent time in the pool. And yes, I got a little burnt last night. I cut my nose, so don't pick on me on YouTube. Please don't leave any comments unless you're saying how gorgeous Ali is and how, maybe we should be brothers or something of that nature. But man, welcome to the show, buddy. Glad to have you down here in the Keys and glad to talk to you with our audience.
It's an honor and a pleasure, and your words are very humbling. I really appreciate that. It was impactful to hear the talk, and I'm grateful for our friendship. I'm grateful we were able to spend time together in Scottsdale, and now actually hang out and take a little mini vacation together. Yeah. It's great. So I'm really grateful for you, and you've made a big impact in my journey as well. So that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So for the audience, who is Ali?
That's a great question. I believe in conscious living.
Okay.
Being a positive contributor to society. Love, having relationships that really matter, business and personal. Doing the best you can and enjoying the journey, kind of philosophically speaking. I'm a passionate life enthusiast, a lifelong learner. I happen to get placed into the wealth, entrepreneurship, life planning world, and took it to the extent that I could by the horns and said, how can we make this the best it can possibly be? And it led to what's here today, and it was a long journey to get there with many, many turns and twists along the way. But overall, I'm a passionate human, a passionate entrepreneur, and I want to make a positive impact in the people's lives that I get to interact with.
All right, so Ali, take me way back to the beginning.
Okay.
Way back to the beginning of your professional career. I think it started around about 2004 in the financial services.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I was 20 years old.
Wow.
Crystal clear memory on this. I was 20 years old. I was a college student at University of Houston, and a gentleman came along, and he presented an internship, or internship as they call it, in financial services. And he's a Fortune 100 company. And he basically said, you get to help people, you get licensed, and you have the potential to make 6 figures, and you can still be a full-time college student. And I was working, I think at the time, at CarMax, prior to that Circuit City, prior to that Starbucks, one of those that started working early, always in customer service or sales type roles. So when I heard this opportunity, I was like, sign me up. If I get to make a positive impact and can also make money and get these outcomes, I'm all for it. And so this was my junior year. Worked basically full-time while going to school. I had appointments with clients. I would have classes Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and in between evenings, weekends at work. And over the course of the 18 months that I was finishing my degree, became quite successful in the financial services arena. And when I graduated, I had a crossroads. So I loved helping people. That was evident in the work that I loved helping people. But I couldn't stand the conflicts of interest that the financial services industry had. It was like you had to sell something. I didn't enjoy the conflicts. I loved the helping people. So I basically was saying, you know what? This industry has too many conflicts, too much compliance, too much regulation. I'm just going to push away and go do something else. The entrepreneur kicked in. Then the other entrepreneur kicked in me and said, well, why don't you just build what you wish existed?
Okay.
And that was the journey to start everything that has been built. It's like, well, you know what? Be the change you wish to see in the world, right? So what if we created a process-driven, strategic planning-driven, life outcomes-driven wealth management firm? And what if and the evolution came over time, what if we took that and then offered it to the kinds of clients I had the greatest impact on, which for me were entrepreneurs, business owners. So that started my journey. I immediately moved towards fee-based planning. And I started to build a practice that was, we're taking everyone through a planning process first. Everybody's going to pay a consulting fee, and we're going to have a process-driven, outcomes-driven plan and strategy versus this traditional, here's a portfolio or here's an insurance policy. It was very much based on the plan and the outcome versus based on a product. That flipped the model upside down. And at the time, this is 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of the marketplace that was doing comprehensive consulting fee for plan type work. That evolved, that grew, and then it grew to the entrepreneur market. And about, I don't know the exact date, but maybe 6 or 8 years into my career, I just looked at my client base and I saw 3 different groups, one of them being entrepreneurs, and deciding what do I strategically want to grow. And I've always believed that you focus on where you have the greatest amount of passion. And my greatest passion is with entrepreneurs and business owners. So it didn't matter that other markets were more profitable. It didn't matter that other markets were easier. It didn't matter that other markets were more scalable. I followed the passion. So I ended up evolving the firm into kind of one of the first entrepreneurial wealth planning firms. There's very, very few at the time. Even today, there's very few. But it evolved into that just naturally, being that I had an affinity for entrepreneurs, being one myself.
So whenever you started the practice, way back in early 2000?
So 2004, I got in the business. I was in an eat what you kill model, if you will. So I kind of had my own practice, but not really. And then fully independent in 2009 is when I formed Altru Vista, and essentially had my own entity formed and ended up forming the independent RIA. So all that came in 2 phases. First was the brand, and then was the full breakaway from the firm to build my own independent RIA, which is in 2010. So 2009, 2010 was really when the break happened. So about, I guess it's been 14 years ago, 15 years ago.
So what was the journey over the last 14, 15 years from 2009 to present? Did you see in your business the way we see so many other business owners where they had this amazing J curve? Did you see like where maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 years was like setting deep foundational roots, and then all of a sudden you saw exponential growth? Or what was your journey like during that 14-year period?
Yeah. So 2010, we basically started from scratch. I think when we formed the independent RIA, we had like $5 million under management, very minimal. Basically starting from scratch.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, we've been there. You take away the security blanket, you start from scratch. I think we went from 5 to 25 in the first 2 years, and then the big growth curve happened from about 2013 to 2015 or 2016. We went from about 30 million under management to over 200 million under management in about a 24 to 36 month period. I mean, don't quote me on the exact numbers, but 2 to 3 years we essentially grew 10x. That was the big jump. And then from there it was, well, how do we build the appropriate infrastructure for the next layer of scale? And then how do we build the IP from the unique value proposition we had, created unique IP? So the next years after that became scaling the business and scaling the IP.
What was your biggest challenge whenever you saw that 10x, as you put it, that 10x jump? What was the biggest challenge that you as the business owner, not as the advisor faced, but you as the business owner faced during that position?
I was sitting in too many seats.
What do you mean by that?
I was the CEO. I was the CFO. I was the chief of wealth management. I was the chief of investment management. I was the chief of financial consulting. I was
the compliance officer as well?
I did service. I had support from the team, but I oversaw compliance. HR, I had a person that hired and fired, but I really oversaw the overall picture. And so basically, when you're the entire C-suite, I had great people, but I wouldn't say anybody on my team was operating in a C-suite type capacity. It was more like mid-level manager and then implementer. And then I was handling the entire C-suite and the CEO. So I was waking up going, if I don't put in 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, this engine doesn't grow. That's the problem. It was all, at that time, based on me.
And how many employees did you have at that time, roughly?
10.
Wow, 10 employees.
Yeah,
and you had
we're from 2 to 10. Yeah, all those 10 employees, they're great people, but mid-level manager or below. Nobody was executive type.
So you actually hit the glass ceiling that so many talk about in the management books, so that a true solopreneur can truly manage roughly about 5 to 7. A superstar type of a person that has great capabilities can really cap out about 10 to 12. And so you were hitting that capacity issue right after you 10x'd. Am I saying it right?
Definitely. Yeah, we went from 2 employees to 10 in about 3 years and grew our assets by about 10 times in that same 3 years. Approximate numbers, yeah.
Wow. I think so many people that are listening to us, they've had similar experiences. They launched their business. They dealt with I call it driving the roots deep, setting the foundational structure in place. And all of a sudden the business begins to grow. And now the owners find themselves, perhaps like you were, where you had a great team, but you were trying to wear too many hats. Once you realized that, what was perhaps the first and second thing that you did in your business to remove yourself from the epicenter, from where everything had to flow through you?
Oh, the first thing is I failed.
Oh, okay. I didn't expect you to say that.
Well, I mean, it's the truth, because I tried to figure it out myself.
Okay.
So it was, I can do this, or, here's, basically spread myself really thin. Tried to be the manager, the owner, the advisor, the coach. I just tried to do it all, and be superhuman, right? Like tough it out, put on the bulletproof vest and let's go. And it hurt. I failed flat on my face. I started to see attrition within the firm. I remember one of my most valuable team members I've ever had. She was a huge part of my growth in that 10x scale. She quit out of nowhere.
Wow.
Well, for me, it was out of nowhere. For her, it wasn't out of nowhere. Right. And we're still friends today. We actually had a lunch a couple months ago, and she's doing great. But seeing a great person leave the organization and going, what do you mean? You're my superstar. Why would you go? And then hearing her feedback on, there's so many new initiatives. There's not enough process. It's one day we're pursuing this, one day we're pursuing that. And that entrepreneurial vision that she was so attracted to, without the right form and structure around it, ended up being the exact thing that pushed her away. Because she kind of said, it's too much chaos. I've got enough chaos in my own life. And now this, the business was just too much. So first thing I did was I failed at trying to scale it myself. And I had a big shift in my thinking. I was at a strategic coach session,
right.
And one of my fellow associates there, members there, he said, have you read the book Rocket Fuel?
Yep.
Right? And I said, no, I've heard the name before, but I've never read it. And he goes, Ali, everything you're dealing with, I think you should check out that book. So for me, it was my biggest pain at the time, right?
Yeah.
They say that change happens when the pain of change or the pain of your current situation is greater than the pain of the change. And the pain of my current situation was so high. When he said this book, I literally downloaded it that day. I started listening to it on the flight home that night, taking notes on the airplane as I was listening to the book, and then finished the book that night and was taking the assessment, when I got home. So essentially what the book said is, there's paraphrased, but it's a great book. Anybody that's a business owner needs to read this book. But there's usually a visionary in a business and an integrator in a business. And most business owners, entrepreneurs, try to do both. They want to be the visionary, set the future, as well as be the integrator, run the day-to-day. And that's exactly what I was doing. Rocket Fuel gave me a way to frame my problem, where I realized my challenge wasn't being the visionary. My problem was being the integrator. Yeah. So that was a big paradigm shift for me, and helped me realize why I should focus. Even though I can do both, I had the capability. I had an 80 on one and a 95 on the other, something to that effect. It's far more powerful when you tip of the spear, focus on what you do best and do that only, versus trying to do what you're good at as well. The more you can focus on doing less, the better everything becomes.
I recorded a video not too long ago, Ali, where Jude, my youngest, he would go around the house saying, you're a failure. And he saw something on some social media thing, and we all got a kick out of it. And we talked about the fact that business owners should be failing often, because as we do, we stretch ourselves, we change, we force ourselves into that position to actually move forward. So after your failure, as you described it, what was your next step to change in this progression to where you're at today?
So the next step is I had two outcomes that I wanted to generate. One of them was to build a scalable business that wasn't highly dependent upon me.
Okay.
And the second was to extract the IP, the unique IP that I had built working with entrepreneurs, specifically entrepreneurs that had gone through the major life transition of an exit, and capture that IP in a way that could impact the world. Right. So I kind of had two big projects. One was deleveraging, growing the business, and one was this IP extraction. So my strategy for effectively creating that outcome was I really need to hire great people.
So who was your first strategic people hire? Not by name, please, but maybe by personality trait. Were they directly opposite of you in the personality sphere, if you will? Or what were you looking for uniquely for that first strategic hire?
First hire was the COO, integrator, VP of operations, whatever you.
So directly opposite your personality type.
Direct, and I wouldn't say so because I've got some of that structure as you've experienced here, and you've teased me a little bit about how what's the term you put? Precise. I can be precision. Meticulous. I think we were barbecuing yesterday. Like, this guy knows how to measure his meat.
155.017. I'm joking, obviously, but it was precision.
There was a part of me that I would say maybe had a third of my personality really overlap. But yes, very different from me. Yep. I was the externally focused, here's where we're going, here's why, here's what we can do. And she was the internally focused, here's the processes that need to be in place, the procedures, here's how we can translate that. Okay. One internal focus, one external focus. So that was the first hire. I had learned that previously from the failure experience, you hire 10 people and then you want to put a manager on top of the 10. That's a backwards way to do it because those 10 people have been loyal to you, and now you're adding a person in that you want 10. You're going to probably lose half your team because they're like, I don't know this person, it's not the right. So it's easier and better, in my opinion, to hire the strategic leader first and have them develop the team and build the team versus you building the whole team and adding them on top. Myself.
You were at the epicenter of your business, as often say. Yeah, everything had to flow through you at that point, and it requires systems, processes, and people in order to free you up to ultimately focus on this second path, which was, as you coined it off camera one time to me, which was IP.
Yeah,
I was trying to get this IP that you envisioned going forward. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So I had two major things that I wanted to accomplish. One was to deleverage myself from the business and create different people and roles that could functionally do what I was doing within the business, essentially free me up. Right. The second major objective was to extract and take the intellectual property that I had built and fully develop that into a way that could democratize the framework. Gotcha. So I had built the system, the approach, but a lot was in my head, some was on paper, we had success with it, but this didn't exist.
And this being your book, the business owner's dilemma. The business owner's dilemma.
Right.
And this is the framework that your IP, intellectual property, by the way, you got a ton of trademarks in here, which I think is amazing. Amazing. But this was the framework that you then focused on over a period of time.
It's nothing in there is academic. Yeah. Everything in there has been implemented for over a decade. Very practical, proven system. Essentially what it was, the way it was built was working directly with entrepreneurs that were facing the major challenges of their success, right? Yeah. The reinvestment dilemma, the legacy dilemma, the exit dilemma. They were facing these challenges and working through them with them on how do you get to the right outcome, and then where are your paradigms off? Yep. Psychologically, you assume it's actually this, right. And you can't read the label when you're in the jar.
Yes, well said. Right? Love that.
And so many business owners, they're in the jar, they think they know what's going on, and someone who's been there, done that, that's outside the jar goes, you're maybe not seeing as clearly as you could, and you shift their paradigm. And all of a sudden their outcome and their decision changed because they got better perspective. I did this for multiple owners, especially many that were going through their own exits. And when I saw the impact that my work had on them, I wanted to go deeper. One was I wanted to refine the system, make it even better, create even better outcomes. The other thing is, how do I share this with more entrepreneurs? Some that are earlier in the journey, some that are in the thick of it, some that are later in the journey, and really change the entire outcome of entrepreneurial wealth and give them the return on life experience that they're looking for, as well as a return on investment that they're looking for. So the book addresses the dilemmas that owners face, and then it also introduces the system, which is called WISE, right. Stands for the Wealth Integration System for Entrepreneurs, which essentially is, I'll use Gino Wickman's description because he gave it the best. He said that WISE is like EOS, but for a business owner's personal wealth. Mm-hmm. So essentially all those pieces that we love to pull together through a system, WISE integrates and pulls all those pieces together in a framework.
So as you were working on this IP and formalizing decades worth of wisdom, knowledge, from the School of Hard Knocks, just life experiences poured into these 100 and some odd pages, 170 some odd pages here in this book. You still had your second path going on, this building your business. You're still sitting in the CEO seat of two different paths running concurrently as we speak.
Yep.
There had to be a point that you came to where you said, I need to make yet another change.
Right.
What was that change, and how did you arrive at that point?
Yeah, great question and very insightful. Yes, it happens again. I think you always level up, right? Mm-hmm. Your problems level up. One author's book I was reading, he said, you never get rid of your problems, you only upgrade them.
Oh, so true.
Right? And this new situation of having these new outcomes, you upgraded problems, right? So I woke up one day, and I can tell you exactly when it was. It was the spring of 2022. I just launched my book. The book came out in February of 22. And that spring, I woke up and I said, I have an IP company, an education IP system company with everything tied to Wise in the book. And then I have this firm, Altra Vista, this entrepreneurial wealth life planning firm. And I've got to be the CEO of two companies. And I was humbled because I get to be the CEO of two companies, but it requires a tremendous amount of work. And no matter how good of people you hire, when you're talking about a services company highly connected to an individual skill set, it is very hard to ever release the amount of time, energy, and effort that has to go into each business. Right. And one of my friends said, Ali, she told me, you can't wake up at 2:00 in the morning dreaming about two companies. Like, you're waking up at 2 with those ideas. You got to focus your attention towards one. And I was watching, more important than my call it Superman identity of, I can do both, and I can do 10, and Elon Musk has SpaceX. You come up with all that stuff. At the end of the day, I knew that the life experience I wanted, I couldn't sustain burning the candle at both ends, trying to build two things at the same time, even though they were connected to each other. I knew internally within myself I had to pick a direction. So to go to your question, the key decision that came was, where are you going to focus your attention, and what's the strategic plan? Because I wanted the outcome for both. So my idea was, what if I could find a larger strategic partner or another wealth management firm that was passionate about entrepreneurs, that had best-in-class success with entrepreneurs, but their CEO read this book and goes, I'm all in. This system is an approach that can really enhance the outcome for the owners we work with. And I'm wanting to absorb or integrate or merge Altra Vista into this firm. Now this is one company that can create much larger distribution, can license the IP in the book. Right. I can focus my attention really expanding the IP, whether it's for this advisory firm or other advisory firms that may want to license the IP, because the goal is to really impact the owner. But I could get rid of the day-to-day operational responsibilities that I didn't want. I could still do the strategic work with my clients, find a great home for them, still be involved with my team, but really get to expand the IP, the speaking, the keynotes, the workshops, and have a channel through which we can actually distribute that impact without the bottleneck being me. Wow. So I was like, if I could wave my magic wand, if you will, and paint the vision for the future, that's a better vision for me than trying to build everything myself.
And it happened.
It did. It did. We're 90 days in. We signed a deal. I sold the business, or merged the business really, with Sequoia Financial Group.
Great name.
And we're 90 days in. So far, so great. Yeah. It's been awesome. And I think having a root with entrepreneurs and it not being a new territory, they know how to do entrepreneurs. Yeah. It really helps, because it's much easier to refine and adjust than it is to just come from scratch. And then there's a long history there and a deep relationship I have with the CEO, and there's a shared belief in impacting entrepreneurs. Right. So the future is huge, but it's huge from all sorts of angles.
So you're on this journey here. You're building a successful business. You're building a business there's not many financial firms who worked in the light of specifically with business owners. I think you and I had a very mirroring approach on how we build our businesses, which is why we can collab so well. But there's not that many out there. and you're now integrating your team. The company's continuing to grow. You put a 14-year time frame on this journey. There is a point in your life when you're like, there's more. Talk to me about that epiphany, that sounding board, that point to where you had to make a decision.
I remember it clearly. I was having I'll call it a quarter-life crisis.
Quarter-life crisis?
Quarter-life crisis. I mean, I was probably about 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I said, there's got to be more.
Yeah.
I had scaled the business quite a bit. We'd grown about 10x in the previous 3 years. I was wanting more. I wanted more impact. I wanted more personal fulfillment. I didn't feel as though I was in the flow that I really wanted to be in. I'd hit a plateau. Yeah. That's kind of the simplest way to put it. I hit a plateau. And I had a study group that I met with every year called the Cactus Club. And we'd been meeting, at the time for probably 5+ years. And I went to the group. Every year we go to each other and we bring our best idea from the year and we bring our biggest problem. And I brought my best ideas and I brought my biggest problem. My biggest problem was, hey, I'm having this identity crisis and I'm just not fulfilled. And one of the guys in the group, his name's WJ, and WJ kind of said something that was pretty bold. And we're going around the room and kind of giving insight to Ali on his issue. And he goes, Ali, I don't see you as a financial advisor. He said, I see you as a CEO of an advisory firm, but I don't see you as a financial advisor. The way you think, the way you approach things, you're an entrepreneur and a CEO that's building a vision, and it just happened to be that vision was in the financial world, and it happened to be to get to where you are today, you had to be an advisor. And in that moment, everything got clearer because I wasn't looking at it through the paradigm of the practitioner. I was looking at it, the business owner, and knowing that I always wanted to create an impact. I came into the business because I wanted to help people create a better outcome, right? That impact evolves over time as to how it manifests, and it manifests in different ways. In this case, it was a paradigm shift as to I'm unfulfilled because I'm limiting myself based on the role that I'm in versus the impact that I want to make. So shifting from what impact can I make overall with a wide open slate versus what impact can I make in this role was a big shift. And it woke me up to think about what was possible if I were to build the enterprise or the firm. And then there was a next level that it evolved to even from there. Which led to the book and everything we've talked about today.
Wow. So as you heard that feedback from, I'm going to call him a comrade, somebody who could just speak into your life and they could talk to you in such a way that you needed to hear to create impact for you. Yep. What was the ultimate outcome of that conversation and your internalization, reflection? I know a decision came, but what was the ultimate outcome that came from that moment in time?
It set me on a new trajectory.
In what way?
My previous paradigm was as an advisor and an entrepreneurial advisor, if you will. The new paradigm was I'm simply an entrepreneur building an outcome for a target market, and there were no bounds to that vision. I could do it in whatever way I wanted. I could do it as an author. I could do it as a speaker. I could do it as a business owner that builds the right leadership team. It was a whole new journey where before he made that statement, it was always like, how do I then maximize the next level of me being an advisor? And now it was like, push the reset button. You're in a different spot altogether. You're starting from ground zero. So now, how can you get bored when you got everything, sky's the limit, right? All of a sudden, it just raised the ceiling. It opened up the ceiling.
So what was your next step?
To start building a true enterprise and a company versus a practice.
Okay.
And I'd always thought of myself as that, but it was still bottlenecked to me being in that seat. Yep. But when I remove myself from that seat or limit myself in that seat, it changed the whole paradigm.
So let me get this right. Over roughly a 20-year career, if I remember correctly on the time frame of our conversation, you began the financial services industry in 2004. Did I hear that right?
That's right.
So roughly over a 20-year career, you grew a firm, failed, as you described it,
Sure.
relaunched, grew the firm again, decentralized yourself, developed IP, actually found yourself running 2 businesses, went through a business exit recently. I'm going to put it was funny when we walked through the door. So I asked Ali, I said, come to Florida, man. Let me love on you and Brooke. Let's just get together. Let's go through this, have some fun. Let's fish. Let's get beat up by the waves. Let's just get together. And you walked in the door and I said, how are you? And you went, Justin, it's like, and you did this. A weight has been lifted.
Yeah. Yeah. I've said to give you the 14 to 4. Yeah. My stress levels for the last few years have been a 14 out of 10, and they're a 4 out of 10.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's just, it's regular. It's more normal stress.
Now, what I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I believe is for a business owner is not the fact that you've gone through a transition. It's not the fact that perhaps you took some chips off the table. It's not the fact that you found a good partner. Any of those things. It's that the fact that now you can see crystal clear what your next path is, and there's no encumbrances to prevent you from moving forward on that next path. Am I saying that the way that you would say that particular, and why your stress level went from a 14 to a 4? Or how would you voice it?
I'm going to give you the honest, simple answer.
Okay.
The amount of energy it takes to manage a team of people, the human energy, God bless those that love to manage and build teams and deal with the emotional ups and downs and change. That's one of the hardest things to do. And for me, it was one of the biggest energy drains, right? Give me any client challenge in the world, give me any business strategic challenge, give me an entrepreneurial challenge, I'm all for it. I have a much harder time with dealing with the internal employee challenges.
Yeah.
It's just hard. And these weren't rocket science, complicated things, but it's just things that weren't the things that excited me. And when I look at the vision you can have and having a scalable operational infrastructure that's proven, it's like, it's rocket fuel, right? You get the great system that can really impact the entrepreneur. You have a scalable infrastructure that can support the business and the solutions and the team. It's rocket fuel.
Yep.
So what I have now that I didn't have before is I've got the platform for expansion. I always had the clarity and exactly what that needed to look like. Mm-hmm. But I had to put the pieces in place. And putting those kind of pieces in place was not easy. But now that they're in place or they're coming into place, the outcomes that can be created, it's just exponential.
Ali, you've gone through a transition. You've had 20 years. We're sitting here in Florida where, we spent the last day and a half, 2 days together just talking, on iron sharpening iron, coaching you coaching me. We got out in the swimming pool, got burnt. We went on the waves, got beat up. We did some snorkeling. Families here we had a great time.
Had some good burgers.
Gonna have some good burgers. Oh, the burgers are delicious. We're gonna have some artichoke, I think, and some fish, depending on what the girls do as they're out playing, doing their thing. But we're talking to business owners, man.
Yeah.
Business owners are sitting here tuning in. They're saying, dude, Ali, you and Justin, y'all have had an amazing journey. We've been blessed, brother. We've been blessed beyond measure. We've had 20 years in the sea, dealing with the ups and downs. Both have gone through exits. Mm-hmm. Both have keynote speakers. Both have books that we've written that are our life's work inside there. I mean, it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm very grateful.
It's crazy.
And it's crazy to meet someone on such a parallel path. I mean, I have to give credit to and give thanks to Scott Snyder. Yeah. He introduced us. Yeah. I'd heard you speak, and I think you had heard me speak, but we hadn't had the dots connected. But when Scott introduced us, and he told me, Ali, I think talk to Justin because he's on a very parallel path to you, and he might be a year or two ahead of you in the journey. And what he's gone through sounds like. So it's been really helpful. So just a quick shout out to Scott for introducing us.
And by the way, friends, Scott Snyder, we've had him on the podcast. Scott Snyder is the president of the Exit Planning Institute. Both Ali and I are CEPA, Certified Exit Planning Advisors. And so that's where our passion with working with business owners and realizing that our business is often our number one asset and it's highly illiquid. And at some point, we're going to leave our business. I mean, we're going to take this highly illiquid asset and shift it into hopefully liquidity. On our terms. That's what we're after. So as we're talking to the business owners, let's take the chapters of your life, the versions of your life, right? The Ali 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and now the future 4.0, okay? So if you're talking to you, 1.0 in the infancy of your business, what's one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Seek out advice from those that have been there and done that.
Okay.
And early on in your career, go find the individuals that you are looking to replicate their outcomes and gain their guidance and input. Give them a call, listen to their podcast, read their book, reach out to them, build mentors, build guides. Do not try to do it all alone. It's going to take you longer. You'll make more mistakes. You're going to make enough mistakes to learn on your own anyway. Don't make the mistakes that are unnecessary when you can go out and reach out to others for guidance.
Okay. So that's the person in infancy. What about that person who has just went through the ringer? They failed. They've gone through a hard time. They've realized maybe that they're their own worst enemy, or life happens.
Sure.
You've heard my life story. I mean, life happens sometimes, right? What do you say to that individual?
Well, first is it's part of the journey. The failure, going through the ringer. In fact, one of my really good friends right now is he's close to the bottom of the pit as you can be. He might have just hit rock bottom in the last 90 days, but one of those spots where, man, he's talented, he's great, but he has broken bones, bruises, bleeding, at the bottom of the pit right now. It's part of life, and you will come out of this stronger. First thing I tell anyone and myself is forgive yourself, because a lot of times there's that self-blame. I should have done this, I should have done that, and why? Forgive yourself. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all going to go through pain. So give yourself the space to forgive yourself, and know that you're going to get out of this. You're going to get out of this stronger. And you may not have the energy right now, but give yourself 30, 60, 90 days. Give yourself a few days break or vacation. Those batteries are going to get juiced up again. Turn on that entrepreneurial passion and vision and fire. It's in you. Just turn it on.
Don't quit.
Don't quit. Certainly don't quit.
Don't quit.
And give yourself the forgiveness. That's really a big thing. Sometimes it's it's beating up yourself. That's the hard. We're our own worst critic.
Yeah.
And we can't let that happen. Don't beat yourself up.
Man, that's powerful. All right, so let's look at the 3.0, right? That individual who's now perhaps found themselves on two tracks. That individual who says, there's more for life than what I'm currently doing. Or maybe they've developed some sort of IP themselves. Maybe it's not captured in a book like your business owner dilemma, but maybe they've said, you know what, I can take this brain child, been there, done that, got the t-shirt on this over here, love it, I like it, but man, I just see that God has something over here for me. What do you say to that individual?
He does. He does have something better out there for you.
That's amazing.
If you're feeling,
let's just have a mic drop right there.
If you're feeling that, there's something out there, and you live life once. Yeah. And if you've got something that keeps calling you in a certain direction, and that voice isn't going away, and I kind of have this rule of 3, right? Yeah. If something comes back to me a third time, like, oh yeah, I really need to talk to that person about this topic, I may let it go. Second time, third time, okay, I'm having that conversation, right? It triggers. I think in business, when you start to have a calling, it's special, and you got to listen to it. I think it was a book of The Alchemist that said, if you listen to the omens, or you listen to your gut, but after 3 or 4 years, if you don't listen to your gut, it stops telling you what to do. So never get to the spot where your gut you stop listening to your gut. So if you've got that voice inside you that says, go do it, I'd say do it.
So okay, let's talk about the 4.0 version.
Okay.
Your love was sitting here on the couch. Our camera just died as we were recording this, so we're doing like a version 2.0 here, and she's not here now.
Sure.
So she didn't get to hear your answer as we were trying this. But what do you say? Projecting from this point forward, obviously we don't know the future, but you have this burning desire. You're kind of crystallizing it right now through conversation. I can see your framework bringing into clarity about where you want to go or what you believe God has for you in this next chapter of your life. But what do you say, not to yourself today, but what do you say to your children's children, your grandkids?
Okay.
If they're now listening to their granddad in his early 40s, who just had these 3 versions, what do you say to them about this future that you can see, maybe not clearly right now, What do you say to them that you would be proud of today if you played it on your 90th or 95th birthday?
Life has seasons.
Okay.
And many people want it to be 75 degrees and sunny with a perfect weather and a cool breeze every day of the year. And that's just not the way life goes. There's going to be pain. There's going to be suffering. There's going to be joy. There's going to be times in your life where business is more important than family. There's going to be times in your life when family is more important than business. There's going to be times in your life where you're going to lose hope and faith. There's going to be times in your life that you're going to be so overjoyed that you want to pinch yourself because it's so good. And embrace the fact that life has seasons and stop doing this. Start to do more of this. Don't let, almost like Marcus Aurelius, be a little stoic, to the ups and downs. And if you want to build something special, you can't do what everyone else does. If you want to break the norm, right, you have to do something different. And it's going to take work and energy and effort. And if you're looking for an easy life, I don't think that's a safe or a good place to go. Look for a life that's challenging. Look for a life that's purposeful. Look for a life that's fulfilling, not a life that's easy. Embrace the seasons, because some people get so caught up with, I don't know what it'll hold when I have grandchildren, if I'm blessed to have grandchildren, but today is a lot of social media. And everybody presents their best self out there, and they make it look like life is yachts and fancy dinners and beautiful people. The reality is life's not like that, and it goes through seasons. So embrace the seasons, and sometimes it's winter, sometimes it's summer, and sometimes it's fall and spring. But it's never just this linear growth. It's always up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
So as we bring this thing to a close here, right, we've been talking about your journey. We've been giving some insight to our listeners here. Where do you see yourself in 36 months?
So we talked a little bit about this earlier, return on life experience.
Yes, sir.
So
role is how you write in your book. Role.
The question I ask every owner that I work with and I ask myself is, what role do you want? And there's a certain set of functions or activities that you love doing, that put you in flow, that you could do every day, that give you energy. You never want to retire from them because you love doing them, right? Identify what those are. Then there's an amount of life experience you want to spend between how much you want to work, how much and build versus how much you want to play, explore, how much you want to give, and map out your time in the way that you want it. So for me, this next phase is about really aligning my time to the outcomes that I want, which I want to work 25 hours a week, 35 weeks a year. That's my outcome. And then aligning the things that I do day to day with the role. So what are the key functions that I want to provide? So now that I'm going through these transitions, I put in different infrastructure. First thing is I want to align myself to those outcomes so that I'm practicing what I preach and I'm living I get to live the role that I want. And then from there, it's always been about impact. And I happen to be put in this entrepreneurial space for whatever reason may be. I love those that have a vision. I love those that want to build a vision. I love helping those. I know the pain of business building, and you teach what you know the most, right? And I know the entrepreneurial pain that's been there. So I love to teach that because I've been there and I have an affinity for it. So for me, it's all about, to answer your question in simple form, getting the role that I want out of life, helping other owners get the role that they want out of life, and expanding the impact of everything I've been doing. It's not going to change. It's just the delivery model is going to change. It's going to be more expansive and I think more exciting.
That's awesome. Man, I can't wait to watch it. I've known you for a couple of years now. I've watched your journey. I had the opportunity to coach you a little bit through your own transitional time.
That's the input and guidance you gave me as I was going through my own business merger exit. To talk to someone that's been there, done that, and in this case in the same industry, invaluable. It was amazing. It was amazing. So I thank you very much for all the inputs.
We've been sitting here in Florida and we've been coaching each other. I mean, we were even talking about our own personal, almost like acting as financial planners for each other, challenging each other.
I'll tell you what, in that 1 hour, we probably created at least 10 million, if not more than that, of value in the impact. Maybe some of the things, because, and again, you can't read the label when you're in the jar. Yep. You know the business, I know the business, but when we're mirroring each other, it's completely different.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So there's nuggets that come out of that.
See, I think, Ali, one of the things that I'm excited about is watching your stage presence, because you're dynamic on stage, unbelievable on stage. Watching your stage presence, watching the principles you wrote about in your book, The Business Owner's Dilemma, watching these principles come into everyday business owners jargon, like you and I would quote EOS, or like we would quote Dan Sullivan. I can't wait, and it's happening now. I can't wait to see your name as the business owner everyday household quote, because it will happen. Thanks, I see that happening. But then having the opportunity, for me, selfishly, if I can say this, to be able to just rub shoulders with you, be able to sharpen, have you sharpen my life. Some people say, whenever, because we both coach, we coach business owners in our own different capacities. We get on stage in our own different capacities. But some people say, well, I don't need a coach. And you and I both have had many coaches speak into our life. What an arrogant statement, I believe, that anybody would say. But even this week, I asked you, hey, why don't you come over? I know what you've just gone through. Come over, man. We're going to play. We'll put you on your camera. You're like,
I was excited.
Come on. But,
so in full disclosure, you told me we'll just hang out.
I did say this.
And you say, we'll hang out, no business, don't worry about that. And the next thing you know, we're teasing. But it's great. It made the trip even better. So I'm.
But what's happened on a trip like this, and what you have the privilege to do with your clients and those who want to work with you through your WISE initiatives and your future deal, and the things that I have the ability to do as I work through, enterprise value acceleration, things of that nature, it is to be able to spend time one-on-one. It's what just happened at this little bar over here, this little kitchen counter, that we didn't even plan for, that impromptu. I don't think 10 million is the right number. No. I think it's maybe a lot significantly greater on what we're going to be able to take away from that moment, sitting at the bar right there, just going over personal life. Yeah. So friends, let me challenge you, okay? First of all, if you don't know Ali, you need to know this man. He will impact your life and change your life. If you have not read his book, you must pick up this book. You can get it on Amazon. And if you do me a favor, if you buy this book, let me know. Reach down in the comments in YouTube or through social media. Let me know, Goodbread, I bought his book. If you do that for me, I'll send you something special. Number 3 is that if you don't have a coach, find a coach. You're looking at one here. If you're a business owner, you need somebody who can walk through this framework, his IP. I'm telling you, friends, as a business owner, this can change your life. It will change your life. So I wanted you to meet a friend of mine, the type of person that I like to associate with on an intimate level, people of the caliber that Ali and his lovely sweetheart is. I wanted you to meet somebody that I let speak into my life, because we all have those individuals. So brother, man, thank you so much for jumping on that camera with me, man.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for all you do for me. Friends, like I say every time, and Ali just testified to this, life is hard. It is, but it's a season, it's a chapter. But life is good. It is. We are blessed. Man, brother, we are blessed beyond measure. Yeah. If we count our blessings, name them one by one, and look at what God's done in our lives, it would bring us to tears about how much we've been blessed. Yeah. So life is good, and it's hard sometimes. We were just out there in the ocean, and a big storm came up, and we were hightailing across the waves, because life is hard sometimes. It didn't go as planned, but we made some adjustments. Here we are doing a little podcast, a little recording here. But at the end of the day, let me challenge you. What do you want? What do you want with your life? Grab the bull by the horns, face the hard times, look at yourself in 50 years, challenge yourself in your future generations, and then, man, let's do it. Let's do this life. Till next time, friends, y'all go out and make it a great day.